Master Connectors. We are on here. Let's go.
He challenged me. He said, you should meet 2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn and engagement, being the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We're all dealing with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro and Cameron Toth is live on air.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. I am so excited that we are talking about decisions then, because decisions, right, are the challenging things that we have to deal with every day, from the clothes you're putting on in the morning, what time even you're getting up, the challenge right now I'm going through. All right. Am I getting up and going to the gym? Am I getting it done? Am I getting that physical fitness in? And then as you're going through the day, you're on the phone, you're in your business, you're going through the day, and there's just 1,000 different decisions. There's big decisions, there's small decisions. Are you comfortable? Do you know how to make those decisions in a way that moves your day forward and keeps you at peace? Or are they keeping you up at night? That's what we're talking about today. Steve,
Yes,
you ready
sir.
to launch this for us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, what's going on, friends? Steve Spiro, the Master Connector, coming at you live and direct. And I am back. Man, we got this technology stuff all squared away. We're good to go. We're coming at you, and it's going to be an incredible show. So I'm going to start with telling you a quick story. So I wound up, I was big into tennis before I got into the martial arts. I was doing 6 or 7 days a week, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, got lessons. I had a bunch of rackets. I was all into it. And I was technically really good. But when I was opposed against was, playing games with, or competing against other folks that were not quite as good as I was losing. I was choking. I was literally way in my head. And then, fast forward, I wound up getting introduced to martial arts. I started training in our martial arts style. It's called Goju Karate. There was a lot of Zen Buddhist kind of mentality. I'm not a Zen Buddhist. That's not the point. But there was a lot of sort of being in the now, right? And sort of that's, not thinking, but doing kind of mentality. And I went back about a year later and to to tennis. And behold, I was really good. I was not in my head at all. I was playing really good. And I was, it was such a difference. And it's amazing. So my question to you guys are this. Have you ever ever think things? Do you ever overthink things? Okay. Have you ever second guessed yourself? Like, should I get on the show with Stephen Cameron today or should I not? Right. Have you ever worried about, I'm joking a little bit, but have you ever worried about the outcome and perhaps it paralyzes you or makes you tight? I mean, that was kind of what was happening with me in the martial arts and tennis rather, because I was kind of getting tight thinking about the outcome too much. Right. Well, today's guest and this episode is really going to help you find Zen in your decisions. So if you're ready for my main man, Mr. Cameron Toth, to introduce our guest, it's going to be amazing. I want you to type in the comments right now, #let's go, because we are LinkedIn lurkers. We're not LinkedIn lurkers. We're LinkedIn participants, okay? So let's get in there. Let's get in the comments. Make sure you're connecting with each other. Whoever's watching, if you're not in the comments, nobody knows you're there. So get in the comments and let's connect with each other. And I'll pass it over to you, sir. Cameron, thank you for all you do. Appreciate you. Not hearing you guys. Cameron, I'm not hearing you.
It's lovely when everything I say is just into the void because I've forgotten to come off of mute. Thank you, guys. All right, here we go. Michael J. Moon, business shaping, IB catalyst, and corporate storyteller. Michael Moon is on a mission to instill in others an epic sense of freedom, power, and gratitude. He has, over the course of his 35-year career, contributed 7.5 billion with a B of positive economic impact, including direct contribution to $2 billion in technology vendor revenues. He has worked as a startup chief marketing officer at 4 software companies, an advisory CMO to several firms, a mentor to 25 plus high-tech startups, and a digital transformation lead in numerous enterprises. He's began releasing ebook chapters from his forthcoming book, Pirate Monk of Silicon Valley, Epic Quest for Wealth and Enlightenment. Please welcome to the Master Connector Show, the Monk of Silicon Valley, Michael J. Moon.
Good morning. Good morning. So perhaps I could, and thank you for such a gracious opening and an opportunity to be here. I want to start off with kind of a working definition of what I'm calling decision Zen, and essentially it is the difference between making a forced decision and making a choice that's free from your bias, from your past, and any other kind of an environmental influences. So decision Zen is to pick up on Steve's notion of a martial arts. When you're on the floor, when you're on the mat, when you're in the dojo, there is a posture that they kind of train into you again and again, and it's the posture of no mind.
Exactly right. That's right.
Being there.
Yeah.
And it's not just being there like an observer. I'm there, ready for whatever.
Exactly right. Yeah. In the martial arts, Michael, if they teach you, if you have to think, you're dead, right? If you got to be in the know and the now, and you can't do that. And one of my favorite movies is The Last Samurai, and there's a scene in that movie. I don't know if you've seen it, but where he says, the guy who's kind of his translator /
I love that protege. Scene. I love that scene, Steve.
Yeah, he's like no mind, right? He says too many minds. In other words, you're thinking
mind in the audience, your mind in this, your mind in that.
Yeah, too many minds, no minds. Boom, go right into it. It's great.
And so outside of kind of that kind of a martial arts frame, it's how can I get into a place of flow?
Yeah,
where I simply choose to do something and it's the right thing, and I can jump into it with what David Allen calls water-like mind. There's nothing impinging upon my being with it. I just kind of meld right into the moment, the activity, the work, the practice, and sometimes later I go, wow, where have I been?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what have I done?
It's kind of like driving, right? Sometimes you get to a location and you're like, how'd I get there? Because you're like totally zoned in, right?
Right. Yep. So let me tell you about the adversary to decision Zen. And I steal this from a friend and a colleague of mine. His name's Stephen Feinberg, and he wrote a really great book called Doing What Others Say Can't Be Done. And he calls attention to the dragon and the dragon of bad decisions. And the dragon of bad decisions is that when we're under pressure, when we have too much cutting coming at us, our brain literally freezes and shuts down. It's called the Einstein effect or the shutdown syndrome. So unbeknownst to a lot of people today, we have way too much stuff coming at us. And because everyone's stumbling around, I believe, we have our brains are literally shutting down with too much input. This forces us to make 3 bad decisions. Something that's familiar, something that's beyond criticism, and something that's mediocre. So the consequence of not developing a skill, a conscious, deliberate skill for making great decisions, you're going to end up with something that's familiar, mediocre, and above criticism.
Yeah, love it. I love it.
Okay.
Well, you're right in the flow already, and I appreciate that. And you're diving right in here. But I did want to ask you a question first before we get into this topic, just because we're big into stories, and so
Sure.
just intriguing. It's intriguing to me. And when you and I, connected, we talked about some of this. But before we get into the decisions, then can you tell us a little bit about your previous life or the early days? So type in #life. So what was it like? What was life like in the early days of Silicon Valley? Right. Give us like maybe a couple of minutes on just a little bit of that perspective before we
Sure.
dive into this cool, really amazing topic. Okay.
Well, perfect. And also, let me give you kind of my somewhat unusual, you might say eccentric perspective coming into Silicon Valley in 1975. I graduated from UC Santa Cruz,
Wow.
which is just south of Silicon Valley. It's actually
Sure.
perhaps part of Silicon Valley now, conceptually. And I took a degree in a self-directed interdisciplinary degree in religious studies. And I did so with the idea that I would have a career in international law or public diplomacy. And I thought, wow, studying religions would be a great way to really understand kind of the moral imperatives that then get canonized or formalized in law, right? And I discovered very on that there was no difference between politics and religion, except politics was semi-rational. However, I became fascinated with the various mystics, saints, poets, and individuals who had transformed the world through the power of their being and the power of language. So I came into Silicon Valley with no skill. And a lot, as happens to a lot of people that have no skill and have to go do something, they get into sales. So I came into Silicon Valley knocking around with various sales, and I finally got into the tech industry, 1978. Initially with a wholesale distributor of electronics. So I got to see kind of the underbelly of all this manufacturing. And then literally next with one of the first microcomputers. So I can say that I met Bill Gates when he sold his product on paper tape, audio cassettes, and 8-inch floppies. So the question is, Steve, what was Silicon Valley like then? It was beige. It was grimy. It was the opposite of glamorous.
Well, you hear stories of like when Bill Gates was in his garage, and so was Jobs, right? They were kind of working out of these grimy garages right back early on, right?
Right. And when I went to the West Coast Computer Fair in the Civic Center, this is before Moscone was built, the San Francisco Civic Center, it was just a bunch of long-haired hippies trading not Pokemon cards, but electronic components.
Wow.
So I can't quite convey the simplicity and just the boring normalness. And so look, a little bit later, I finagled my way into Regis McKenna as one of they were the most successful advertising and public relations firm. I worked on the Apple account. I worked on the Intel accounts. I've been in meetings with Steve Jobs. I've been, asked Andy Grove when he was just the COO. I asked him questions. So it was like I was there, in the room. And all I'm going to tell you is, it is flat, vanilla, beige.
Yep.
Not glamorous, just a bunch of hard work.
I gotcha. Well, we want to dive into this next here. So we have some questions to ask, and thank you for being so willing to share, because sometimes you get on a show and you have guests on there. It's like pulling teeth to get them to talk, and that's not your situation at all. So we appreciate that very much, Michael. But we want to get into change. So #change for our community. Again, we're all participants here on LinkedIn, not lurkers, right? Okay, so here's the question for you, Michael, right? How do we live and navigate in times of change, of chaos, right? Where rapid unpredictability is change. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Well, I've already kind of foreshadowed that by saying that excessive change causes our brain to freeze up, shut down, and select things that are familiar, that are beyond criticism, and are mediocre. So the question then is, how do we begin doing that? How do we begin addressing change in the midst of chaos? Well, first of all, it starts with recognition that I am in an unusual condition. Or the rule is, when you find yourself in a hole, the first rule is stop digging. Now, the stop digging here is stop doing what you've always done. So in this age of chaos, which is, I think, a good metaphor for our world today, what got us here will not get us where we need to be. I'll say that again. What got us here, making a spreadsheet or having a bunch of pros and cons, doing the Franklin algebra, right? The moral algebra, that will not get us where we need to be. Okay? So part of stop digging the hole is to say, look, I need to start reading, I need to start investigating, and I need to start doing things that are new. So it's a skill. So first, I would say, I'm going to learn a skill, and I'm going to practice it into a superpower of making Zen decisions. i.e., I'm going to consider multiple options, and I'm going to get really good at being able to generate multiple options, multiple good options. And if I have a team, I'm going to make it a team sport. Let's quickly do a lightning round here and just spitball. What are really great options here?
Yep, I love that.
And then get into a no mind about that. Just get into like, okay, so those are all the options.
So change. So your point of that, this basically to summarize is, number one, change. Stop digging digging more in the hole you're already in. That's number one. And number two is provide yourself with a lot of options, right? And try to spitball those ideas out. You know, I remember back in my advertising days, we would have a brainstorm session, right? And that's what that was about, right? We threw up on a whiteboard a lot of different ideas, and you know, the rule of the brainstorm session was no idea is a bad idea. And I remember we used to have a lady named Susan. Hopefully, she's not listening to the show, but she doesn't know her last name. I didn't say her last name, but she was the negative one. We always kept her out of the brainstorm session because she just put bad energy. So when you're coming up with ideas, right? No idea is a bad idea. Just throw it out, right? Because then eventually, once you take that Zen approach, right, you could kind of feel which feels right when we have all those options in front of you. Is that kind of the point of that? Am I?
Well, yes, and I love Susans. I love naysayers.
Okay. You could have my Susan.
Cynics.
How about that?
I love cynics.
Okay.
Now there's two kind of ways. There's a couple of ways of talking about a cynic. The normal way of talking about a cynic is, oh, you're the half empty guy. You're the glass half empty guy. And that's an assessment, not necessarily true, but it's an assessment. There's another one called, oh, you see the flip side. So cynics are always saying, what's the flip side of this? And the flip side is almost, well, yes, but if you took into consider X or Y, we might want to kind of have something more of a happy medium. So cynics are always about, let's keep it real, right?
Well, I agree. But my Susan, the Susan I'm referring to, she was negative with no other side.
Well,
she was
great.
negative,
So then that's
like
a failure.
it won't work.
Yeah. So Steve, I submit that that's a failure of leadership to say, Susan, generate what would it take? What would it take for this to happen? And just keep throwing it back to her. What would it take? Well, great, Susan. What would it take? And it's like the 5 whys in Six Sigma. You just keep drilling. What would it take?
Yeah. Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
So you say, in other words, you're saying, hey, listen, I hear you saying it's not going to work. What would you say would make it work, right? So just challenge her or him or they, right, to make sure that they come up with something. Okay, I like it. Right. So we're going to kind of keep this moving because I know there's a lot of content that you have, and I want to make sure we cover questions.
I had just one thing.
Please go for it. Go for it.
After you kind of spitball, you put them all the things on the thing. Great. Then if it's not a lot of pressure in the room and there's not a lot of groupthink, then we could say, which one would be the most fun? Of all these options, which would be the most fun? Which of them is most deeply aligned with our values? Now, most people don't really know what their values are, so that's kind of a trick question.
Yeah.
But part of Decision Zen is I know what my fucking values are. And initially, we discover our values through their violation. What pissed me off last time?
Yeah.
So part of getting your values in order is to really kind of go through and do an inventory of the things that really piss you off, and then flip them, saying, "Oh, great." So that's a value. Integrity. Telling the uncomfortable truth.
For sure.
Telling the uncomfortable truth with tenderness.
Yeah. Well, awesome.
Right.
Well, we want to keep this rolling. So, part of our show, one of our pillars of the show is having the grit to overcome obstacles. So we want to take your perspective on that and type in #obstacles, right? So
Sure.
How has having this Zen mindset help you, Michael, overcome obstacles? And do you have any examples you could share with us?
Sure. So let me first challenge or reframe the notion of grit.
Okay, please.
Grit is so first of all, in the book, Grit by Angela Duckworth, she does a pretty good job outlining what she calls grit. And it gets misinterpreted. It gets misinterpreted because it's just a matter of forcing things through, to Tony Robbins thing through, just an overwhelming, massive action, overwhelm, just dominate the little kid in you. And that is a prescription for failure. And a lot of overcoming obstacles are about the use of willpower. And willpower is a rapidly depreciating capability. And ultimately, according to brain scientists, it's all based on glucose in the brain. It's all sugar in the brain. Okay. And when your brain consumes that glucose, I still want to, but the body says no, we're not going to do that. So what's the opposite? What's the complement of willpower? Or another way of saying that, what can I do? The doing of which, what can I do that puts me into a state of invincible flow? What can I do that will induce me to do the right thing for my long term? Or another way of saying that, what can I do to take temporal discounting off the table? Now, there's a really great body of research in there. It's in the book, outlined in the book called Emotional Success by David Destino. And basically, it comes down to how you manage your moment now. I'm back to that no mind. Well, now there's another thing. How do I moment? And so, do I put resistance and anger and frustration into my moment now, or do I learn how to put compassion, gratitude, and a kind of a pride of accomplishment? And so those are what he calls pro-social emotions. And so when you find that you are just inherently grateful for the gift of being alive, when you are grateful for the meaningful relationships that you have in your life, when you are able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes and experience like, well, what must they be? What happened to them? What must they be feeling in order to say this or that, right? And really to look at your life and say, I really accomplished. These are the things, these are the meaningful things. Now, look, most of those things are like out of mind. Yeah. So through the practice of what I call retrospective gratitude, we go back and we pull those things out of our history and really make them a resource.
Yep.
Okay. So when you can combine flow power with willpower, you get this invincible resourcefulness.
Yep.
You get a superpower. But the thing that feeds the superpower is not rational, forceful, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
it comes out of love. It comes out of tenderness. It comes out of, and then if you're working with somebody, it comes out of, we belong to each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could tell, I mean, that's why you're on the show, but a lot of our mindset is the same, because my perspective of grit and that overcoming obstacles has never been that forced stuff. It's never been. It's always been, all right, I'm going to figure out a way to kind of get around this, but it's not a force. It's just it's with you, what you said, right? Like, I remember I've always had, like I said, all right, I'm going to put at least 3 paths in front of me that are totally not related, and one of those paths will get me further along, versus only just saying, okay, I got to go this path, and forcing my way through, right? So I believe we're in the same realm.
Yes,
sure.
we are. So the other thing I just wanted to kind of say,
please,
about grit and Angela Duckworth, she made the point that grit is a function of this willpower meeting purpose. So that there is how does Steph Curry take shooting practice at 3:00 in the morning with a coach, right? Or whoever, Tiger Woods, putting in 10 hours on the driving range, right? So where does that come from? And it comes from a sense of purpose. It comes from a sense of, it's not about. And so here's the thing. It's about something larger than me.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
And the last part of that is that I coined the term out of this. I call it creative persistence. And one of the points that she said when she studied people that have tremendous grit, they take a big long-term project. They break it down into sub-projects. They break those down into sub-projects. They break those down into sub-projects. So you've got this pyramid where you got one thing at the top, and you might have 50 items at the bottom. And when I start to work on one, and in fact, what I do is I work on one for 15 minutes, and then I switch.
Okay.
Right. So if I'm not jumping a level, then I just switch to another 15-minute project.
Yep. That's great.
That's the art of creative persistence.
I love that. Creative persistence. I like it. So we do want to keep this rolling here, and that's awesome. And I know Cameron flashed up on the screen something from our friend Russ Hedges, there he is, Russ Hedge. I always put an S on the last thing, but perspective is everything when it comes to challenge, right? And then also he's talking about his spiritual beliefs, right? With God can help you overcome obstacles. And listen, whether you do have belief in God or belief in a higher power, I believe that is going to give you a sense of peace. And so that's the next part to this conversation we'd like to have with you, right? So when you're ready, put in hashtag peace. And the question is, has this mindset helped you, this Zen mindset, be more at peace with yourself and consequently been more authentic with others? Because that's a big part of our show as well. A big part of what I speak about, which is authenticity with people, right? So can you tie that together? Is there a way that you could tie that? Okay, let's I would dying to hear what you got to say.
So I provided 2 scorecards that are PDFs that folks can download. And they are, if you will, so scorecards are like the after action version of a checklist. So think of this scorecard as an after action checklist for how to meditate, how to get into a deep alpha brain state, and then how to do a 3-scene visualization. Okay. So part of developing a mindset is the recognition that I will make my best decisions. I will make the decisions that are most aligned with source or with who I am. I will make the best decisions that are really a win-win-win. I will make those best decisions on the other end of a deep alpha meditation. Now, well, for the most part, that's going to be gobbledygook. Nobody really understands what that is, or may not. But Go Google it. Deep alpha, alpha meditation, centering. There might be a thing on a centering exercise. But the point is that when we are in a deep alpha state, as opposed to the beta brainwave state that's right now, a deep alpha state is at about 8 to 12 cycles per second, as opposed to the 30 to 50 cycles per second right now that a beta is. And in a deep alpha state, you are connected not only to your core beliefs, core self, but you're connected to the being of all beings. You're connected to the being of human beings. Now, you can put that in a religious context, you can put that in a metaphysical context, right. But the point is that when the neuroimaging of that, it then puts you back into what they call your default network. And the default network of your brain is the social part. It's where compassion lives. It's where empathy lives. It's where love and appreciation live, right? So when we get into a deep alpha brainwave state, literally we are dipping our toe back in the ocean from which we came.
Okay. Right?
Yeah. Now, a lot of people say, okay, well, great. I'm now in the deep alpha. Then so here are some power moves for what to do in a deep alpha. One of them is a 3-scene technique. Now, I take this from Jose Silva Ultra, Silva Mind Control.
Okay.
Brilliant piece of technology. And basically, every problem exists in a situation.
Sure.
Right? We are, for the most part, ignorant of the situation that gives rise to the problem.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing to know. There is something behind the problem, and more importantly, I am complicit in the very persistence of this problem.
Yep.
So there's no such thing as a problem without your footprint on it.
Yeah.
So how do I shift? So part of shifting the problem is shifting the problem to a project, and ultimately a bunch of projects. All right. And you don't have to have the master project plan, but it's just, what are some steps? What are some things to do what actions can I take now that move towards, and then finally, what does it feel like? What's the internal, visceral, deep down feeling of it looking like when it's completely resolved? So those are the 3 scenes, and I've got the scorecard outlining it.
Yeah.
But you go from a problem. Now, part of really understanding the problem is who is hurt by it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And to the degree that you can visualize and feel the hurt, the damage, the anguish of others that this problem causes, you will rally an army of angels that will come to your assistance.
There you go. Now we're talking. All right. Well, listen, we got to wrap up here. I want to ask one thing. And by the way, I'm not sure how Cameron could get for us out the PDF. So if you want, reach out to Michael, and he'll get you that PDF if we haven't figured out another way to get that PDF out to the community. So we could do that.
I sent them to Cameron. I just sent them to Cameron.
Yeah, I just don't know how Cameron's going to get that PDF out to the community. That's the only thing I don't know.
Got it.
Right.
All right. Okay.
So we'll figure that out. But reach out to.
Yeah, I didn't see the email come through on my end, Michael. So yeah,
we'll figure it out.
Well, yeah, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, reach out to Michael. You'll be able to get it. So, but we have one more question, and we started to touch on this. It's on the topic of mindful, and we only have we're actually at the end of the show already. But so I would like to try to keep it to like a minute. I know that's going to be challenging, but on mindful. So #mindful. How important is your perspective, mood, and posture as change comes to you? All right. So tell us in as brief as you can, because we want to get this closed down in a couple minutes here.
There's really nothing more important than mood. Now, most people, I think, misinterpret mood. Mood is the persistent, day in, day out flow of emotions. So it's not a feeling, it's not an emotion, it's the kind of the recurring motions. And for the most part, we have our mood generator set on auto-generate.
Hmm.
It just, we feel what we feel because that's what we feel, and screw you for asking me how I feel. It's just, and so the first thing is,
your mood is it tends to be a thermometer versus a thermostat, right? It kind of, whatever the feeling is, it is what it is based upon that.
right. And to bring forward the notion of a posture, a stance on the dojo mat of life. The mood is your best, most direct, immediate, visceral indication of directionality.
Okay.
If you're feeling bad, I don't care what. If you're feeling bad, you are headed in the wrong direction. Stop. Just, okay. Now, if you're feeling good, if you're feeling enthused, that's the right direction. That's what God wants.
Yeah.
Right?
Amen.
So now there's a whole question on how do you get into your hands on the steering wheel? What can I do to start changing, transforming, or I should say, lifting up, leveling up my mood? Well, that'll be a session for another day.
And so if you want to know that answer, make sure you reach out to Michael, and obviously we'll have to have you on another show, because you are, I mean, like, man, you hit the button, and Michael, you could just go, and I love it, man. It's awesome. So appreciate you. Tell the community if there's any final, closing sentence or two, and anything in terms of how you'd like them to reach out to you, how can the best connect to you, and we're going to close this sucker down.
I guess the simplest way would be through LinkedIn. It's Michael J. Moon. You can just do Michael J. Moon Gratitude Games, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. All right. Well, good stuff. Well, this has been amazing. It's been an honor having you on, sir, and appreciate you doing this. And so I
want to thank you, Steve and Cameron, for just having the persistence of putting the show out there. I have an inkling of an awareness of how much time and energy and heart goes into it. Hats off to you, and keep up the good work.
We appreciate it,
Michael.
For sure.
And speaking of consistency, same bad time, same bad channel next week. We will be back at you with episode 115, Proximity to Greatness, with Brittany Esel. I'll put that link into the comments right now. And I appreciate everybody who is aware of my company, Toth Event Staffing, as we do this show day in and day out. We're happy. And if you are interested, definitely follow Steve for the Master Connector Conference Cruise, September 2023, September 25th. Time is running out. Make sure you are following up to get your tickets. I'll see if I can drop that link in here, Steve, as well. Steve, you know what to do. Lead us out here with
we are going to end the show like we always do with we're going to count down Michael to crush it. But before I do, I just want to say one thing. Listen, if this show inspired you, if you got good value out of listening to Michael J. Moon, and you've enjoyed this show in the past, please make sure to share this, like this. If you're watching it on the replay, type in #replay. We want to hear from you. We want your words, your voice. You count. You matter. And so make sure you're in the comments and share this to your community. And we're very appreciative. So we're gonna count down to crush it. So Michael, I don't know if you know what we do, but at the end we put our hands up. We go from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 with our fingers, and the community does it on the comments. And then we shout out, crush it, and we punch the screen without making the screen go away, if you know what I mean. So, but anyway, you ready? We're gonna do this. Cameron, you're back. All right, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Crush it! Have an amazing week, everybody. Be awesome. We will see you next week. Same bad time, same bad channel.
He challenged me. He said, you should meet
2 or 3 people every day.
We're talking about how to level up on LinkedIn, engagement leading the go-giver, the idea that being open to opportunity.
We all deal with challenges, but how do you overcome that?
Master Connector with Steve Spiro and Cameron Toth is live on air.